While the bombing continues at pace, civilians on the ground, both in Gaza and now in Lebanon, are feeling the full effects of the ongoing conflict. To help us understand the risks and what's at stake, we're joined now from Beirut by Dr.Shawky Amine Eddine, who is a humanitarian advisor for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Lebanon. Dr. Eddine, thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. Obviously, we are seeing an escalation of sorts, and certainly what we saw in central Beirut on Thursday. Just from your organization's point of view, what are your immediate fears about what is happening there?
Good evening. For the International Committee of the Red Cross, what matters the most is the humanitarian consequences of this escalation in conflict. Over the past few weeks, we have seen unprecedented internal displacement in Lebanon. We have seen over 1.2 million people being displaced from their houses, from their homes. These people are coming from the southern of Lebanon, from the southern suburb of Beirut, and also from Bekaa. They lack access to basic needs such as water, such as emergency healthcare, and as well as shelter. Many of these people are sleeping in the streets because they don't have access to shelter. Only 186,000 of the 1.2 million are actually present in emergency shelters, whereas the rest are trying to find shelter in other places.
What was the Lebanese situation like even before, we could say before September, where we saw an uptick in the escalation? We could even say before October 7th, but just to speak to me about the Lebanese capacity to provide that healthcare.
So prior to September, when we have seen this big or huge increase in internal displacement, but even before that, the situation was pretty concerning for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Prior to the latest wave of internal displacement, we had around 100,000 people being displaced. And at the same time, around 140,000 people remained within the 0 to 10 kilometer distance or buffer zone from the southern border. And people who were still present in these villages, which are next to the border, had also a lot of needs unmet. So they also had limited access to water, to electricity, to food, and so on. And that's why the International Committee of the Red Cross actually did not wait until this recent escalation to start its response. We have been responding since October 2023 to these imminent needs, to these humanitarian needs, trying to ensure the protection of civilians, trying to address their urgent humanitarian needs, trying to ensure that they still have access to their basic needs, and even trying to step up the preparedness of the healthcare system in Lebanon. This has been done in close collaboration with the Ministry of Public Health and also with other partners such as hospitals and the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, including the Lebanese Red Cross.
I want you to just talk to me about the geography and the situation. If you look at Lebanon, it is surrounded by Israel and Syria. The accessibility, surely for an aid organization like yourself, is quite difficult. And then on top of that, you've got to go into places like Beirut, which are so densely populated. Just how tough is that?
Look, working in times of conflict is never an easy job. But this is something that the International Committee of the Red Cross has been doing for over 160 years. We have been present in most of the armed conflict, providing aid, trying to alleviate the suffering, trying to protect the civilian population, trying to ensure meaningful, but at the same time, humanitarian confidential dialogue with parties to the conflict in order to ensure that they respect their obligations under the international humanitarian law. This is by far not an easy job. This is something that requires a lot of work, a lot of effort from the International Committee of the Red Cross, and that is what we're trying to do once again here in Lebanon. We're trying to scale up our response. We've been present in Lebanon since the 1960s. We never left Lebanon since the 1960s. And once again here, this time during this conflict, during this escalation, we are there to advocate for the protection of civilians, to provide our critical health care to the wounded and the sick, and to address the essential needs of those affected by the conflict.
Dr. Shawky Amine Eddine, thank you so much for just shedding a light on that. Dr. Eddine coming to us from Beirut, where he is a humanitarian advisor for the International Committee of the Red Cross in Lebanon.